It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoe Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in again. This is hour number 2 of The Local Show. Get ready for some engaging interviews with Jimmer Szatkowski. He's the owner and operator of Chick-fil-A, Cicero, and Clay. And then attorney John Murphy stops by, Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts, along with Ray Manassa, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at the United Way of Central New York, all in hour number 2. We're broadcasting from the Zoe Advertising Studios, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. Now, folks, it's not too complicated. The number 2 search engine in the world is YouTube.
Yes, it is.
And YouTube is it's actually the best of the social medias. They say that it just outranks and has more viewers and more people connecting with it because, it's wonderful in that you can ask it a question. How do I, cover my roses so they don't die over the winter? And you can get 50 videos.
So let me ask you a question. So how do I deal with Tom and his weirdnesses?
You could put that. I don't know if anybody's made a video on that yet.
I should.
Maybe my wife has a secret channel. How to deal with Tom.
No, so on the
So
Zoe
we're there.
We're there. So
Yeah.
Zoe, please subscribe. People are just starting to do that.
Yes.
Subscribe and hit the smash
like
the
button.
like button.
Yes.
And then
then
you'll get
follow us.
notified.
Right.
And you'll be able to not only hear but to see the guests and
Yeah.
get to know them better.
Sure.
For all the local
And
businesses.
then you can comment too. I don't know if we have the comments turned on or off. I
think
guess I
it's
got to
on.
check with Brad. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
I'll have people say Steve is better looking than Tom.
Right. Yeah, we could do that. All right. Right now, we have the pleasure to talking to our dear old friend, Jimmer Szatkowski, who's the owner-operator of Chick-fil-A, not only in Cicero, but also in Clay. Jimmer, thank you for being here. How are you?
I am well. It's my pleasure. It's been a long time, and it's so good to see you guys.
Good to be seen. First time at the new Zoe Studios.
It is. It's beautiful.
Yes.
I really like it.
And we have an elevator.
Yes.
We've arrived.
Which,
huh?
yeah, hey, it works for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And Tom got this big studio office,
yes.
so he's spoiled. We're doing little payroll deductions every week to pay for it from him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know it because he never looks at his pay stub. Kelly does all the financial stuff, so don't tell him.
I wanted to put a little buffet unit in here and then have Chick-fil-A.
Listen, if you do
catered.
it, there'll be nuggets in that buffet.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah,
That's wonderful.
well, Chick-fil-A, Tom.
Yes. So, Jimmer, you've got an interesting story, and the story keeps evolving. Tell us, let me just go back a little bit. I remember seeing Jimmer first. I knew about him through a couple of friends. And one of them was Rick Yacobush, who just loved Chick-fil-A. He's a super fan, wouldn't you say?
He is yes, he's a raving fan.
Yeah.
I would say.
And he was over at iHeart at the time. And so I knew you from him. And then I was at the Soho show, right? Soho.
That's
and
right.
then you spoke at Soho.
Yeah.
And I heard your story and I thought, wow, this guy's got such an interesting story. Can you kind of water that down and give people a 60-second version?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up not far from here in Western New York and grew up poor. So I had never eaten in a Chick-fil-A my entire life. Until I was 37 years old.
Wow.
We had moved to North Carolina. I was working for IBM. I ultimately spent 20 years there. And I quickly realized in North Carolina, Chick-fil-A was kind of a big deal.
Right.
In fact, one funny story, we were interviewing a young lady to be a babysitter. And at the end of the interview, she says, "Y'all are so lucky." And I thought she was going to say, beautiful kids,
Right,
nice
something
house,
like that.
right? She says, "Y'all got a Chick-fil-A right across the street." And I thought, man, that's kind of weird. Somebody would be that infatuated
with a food place, right? Yeah.
Right. But eventually I got on board. And what I'll say is this. We fell in love with the way that we felt when we went to a Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Interesting.
The food, listen, was incredible. But the way we were treated, the way we felt. And then eventually a guy who worked for me at IBM called me up and said, I'm leaving to go work for Chick-fil-A in their corporate office. And I really respected the guy and would call him every couple months. And he would just rave about working for Chick-fil-A. Eventually, I went down to their corporate headquarters thinking someday a corporate job. I was blown away by my experience. Mm-hmm. And then I kept working at IBM and getting less happy. Mm-hmm. And I finally decided one day I don't want to do this anymore. And I called my friend at Chick-fil-A, and he asked me a question that changed my life. He said, have you ever thought about being a Chick-fil-A operator? And my answer was a resounding no.
Sure, right.
Now that you mentioned it, no.
Yeah.
Crossed my mind.
You're a bigwig at IBM. Why would you, even think about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, but he said, the more I meet our operators, the more I see you in them. Uh-huh. And so I hung up the phone and I put in an expression of interest. Long story short, almost exactly 5 years ago, I left IBM after a 20-year career to go sell chicken for a living in upstate New York.
How many people enter the interest? How many people do that? Because that's kind of a popular thing.
It is, yeah. So last year, 80,000 people did that.
80,000?
80,000.
To be owner-operators?
Correct. Wow. And we open about 130 restaurants a year. You guys are kind of smart.
Well, sort of.
I was being generous.
Yeah, right.
I was being
he was looking
divided
at me.
By two.
I saw Steve on his phone.
Yeah, he was looking at me
as I was throwing out those numbers.
Yeah,
but suffice to say, the odds are not great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so it's been the most challenging and gratifying thing I've ever done in my life, besides being a husband and father.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost even a higher odds that people would get two Chick-fil-A's in a city or a town, isn't it?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. First of all, you have to run an exceptional restaurant. Mm-hmm. Something that Chick-fil-A would like to replicate. And I think more importantly, you have to build a leadership team that allows you to replicate it.
There you go.
Yeah,
because there are not two of me.
Right.
Right. So I cannot be at both of those restaurants every day. And so you go through another selection process for that. And it's a very thorough, challenging process. Yeah. I'm very blessed.
Pretty incredible. And I do remember when we first met you, Jimmer, I had driven over to test the place out, and it was early morning for me, so around noon. No, it was actually early morning, and Jimmer was out in the parking lot picking up garbage from the parking lot, and I mean, and not for show. I mean, the guy was digging in. He was picking up cigarette butts, everything, and I was just like, wow, this guy takes this job seriously, and he's really committed to running a stellar place.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I do it. There's two reasons, Tom, why I do those things. First of all, I think your guest experience starts in the parking lot.
Very true, yeah.
Yep.
Right? If you're walking in a place and it's dirty outside, I think it's a reasonable assumption to make that other parts of the restaurant will be dirty.
That's fair.
That's
right.
Right? I think the other reason is this. I want everyone to know who works for me that there is no job below me. And therefore, there is no job below anybody else at that restaurant. So, yeah, that's why I do it.
Interesting. Well, Jimmer, do you mind sticking around? We're going to keep talking to you.
I'd love to.
All right, we'll take a quick commercial break. Folks, we've been talking with Jimmer Szatkowski. He's the owner-operator of Chick-fil-A in Cicero and Clay, and we're going to come back and keep talking about Chick-fil-A and then get into Jimmer's personal life, too. We're going to flip up all the rocks and have him talk about that. Coming up on The Local Show right here on 570 WSYR and 106.9 FM. Stick around.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoe Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking with us through the entire weekend, and we do appreciate your company. And sometimes I appreciate your company, folks, more than Steve's.
I knew that was coming. I knew it. Well, Tom, we were talking earlier with Jimmer, and we're going to continue it. So the first person I think you met in Syracuse was my mom knocking on your door saying, "Why are you here and why have you ruined the neighborhood?" Is that what you said?
She showed up at the trailer that we had on the construction site.
Oh, goodness.
That I was operating out of.
Okay.
She knocks on the door and she introduced. We had a pleasant little conversation. I realized after the fact, I think she was coming to just scope out who was moving into her.
She's a very curious lady.
Correct. But we had a wonderful conversation, and then she started showing up often. The next time she showed up, it was with a plate of cookies.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Yes.
So she brought you food.
She brought me food.
Before the restaurant was built.
Correct.
Okay.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, that's something
I see your
else.
mom at least every other week.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes.
Let's ask you about some seasonal goodies that we can, look forward to. It's, we're heading into November here,
Yep.
and then right into Christmas. Does Chick-fil-A put out any new products or different products for this season?
We do. So our current seasonal items that are coming to a close soon are the Autumn Spice Milkshake,
Yes.
which essentially feels like Thanksgiving in a milkshake.
And it has enough
Yes.
calories to sustain any human for a week.
Is that the one you've
did
been
I say
getting?
that? Is that true?
You certainly could sustain yourself calorically on that milkshake.
But it's worth it.
It is. The other one we've got going right now is a spicy grilled sandwich.
Okay.
So a healthier version of
Wait
our
a minute. I
spicy.
haven't had that.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
Really good. A bit spicy, but really good.
I'm good.
But for the winter,
Yes.
we're bringing back our always popular peppermint chip milkshake.
Yes. Okay. Very nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And our chicken tortilla soup.
Very nice.
Okay, I've had all of those things.
Really
All of
good.
it. Good.
Really good. So,
Hey,
yeah.
and hopefully that's right. I'm not even thinking about it, and now you've made me think about it. Santa Cow, you'll probably be doing that again. Maybe we can do
We'll
the
be
photo
doing
booth.
breakfast with you and I got to talk.
Yeah, I'd love to do the photo booth.
Yeah.
again. That
We'll
was
be
fun.
doing it for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep.
All right. So, Jimmer, I couldn't help but notice you came in a scooter. Is that just your fashion statement or what? What are you
No,
doing?
it's something I use now. I need now as a result of my diagnosis of ALS just over a year and a half ago.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's a progressive disease, and certainly I've had some progression, which is hard,
Yeah.
super challenging, and certainly I have bad moments,
Right.
bad hours, but I don't really have bad days.
Interesting.
Why?
Because I've surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. That's the short answer. The reality of what I'm going through is this. I have lost some things physically. But what God tells me is I've lost very little. And whatever I've lost physically, I've gained spiritually. I am a better follower of Christ. I'm a better father, a better husband, a better leader. And I don't like how it's happening, but it's happening. And so God is using my suffering for his glory. And I'm grateful for that, no matter how it's coming.
How have you dealt with your employees in trying to keep them relatively maybe upbeat or to have them make sense of what's going on to you?
You know, I try to do what I've always done, is just love and care for them. And the crazy part of this whole thing is my capacity to love and care is greater. Again, I don't like how it's happening, but it is. And
how do you explain that?
I think when you go through something like this, you spend more time with God, and He opens your heart. When you suffer, you become more empathetic.
Right.
And I would say that this sounds crazy, I know, but you actually think less about yourself.
Yeah, that does sound counterintuitive to what's going on with you.
Yeah, and certainly that wasn't the case at the beginning, after my diagnosis. In those first months, I was devastated, and it was all about myself, what it meant for how long I was going to live, what it meant for my ability to do certain things.
Right.
But as time went on, I realized the important things in life, nothing's changed.
Right. What would you tell someone that maybe looks and goes, well, of course he's trusting Christ. The guy's suffering. He's got pain.
Yep.
You know, no kidding. So I guess that's good for him. What would you tell someone that would maybe have that perspective?
My experience in the last 19 months is that it's actually often more hard to trust Christ and turn to Christ in these situations, because you question.
Sure.
Why me?
Right.
Yeah.
Why have you forsaken me?
Ow. Right.
And that's where the rubber meets the road, spirituality-wise and faith-wise. Trust me, there are many other options besides turning to Christ and trusting him.
There you go.
You can turn inward. You can be selfish and desperate. But the path I chose was him. And that's where I try to keep my focus.
But your walk with Christ had begun long before the disease diagnosis.
Sure. With that said, this has allowed me to get much closer.
Right.
And trust. I don't know how this is going to shake out for me on this earth.
Right.
I do know how it's going to shake out for me after that. So I've already won.
How's Betty?
She's awesome.
I knew that. How's she doing?
Right. Betty's his wife, for those of you keeping up with things.
She is. She has said to me many times, God has uniquely prepared us for this. And grace is going to come from this. She's the strongest human being I've ever been around, by far. And I could not do it without her. And she's becoming a much bigger part of her business, which is awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Wonderful. We've been speaking with Jimmer Szatkowski. He's the owner and operator of Chick-fil-A in Cicero and Clay, and has been for how many years has it been now, Jimmer?
It'll be, 5 years, but the store The first store, Cicero.
Right.
5 years, February 22nd next year.
Wow. There you go. So he's
time for a party.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. And Jimmer, of course, dealing with ALS and doing a great job in that he's walking with Christ and sharing that story with us. You're a strong individual, and just from all of us here, we love you, and we always have.
I know that, and I love you. Okay. You guys have meant a lot to me, and continue to. You do great stuff. God has mighty plans for you.
Thank you. All right. Jimmer Szatkowski right there, folks. Next up, we're going to talk with John Murphy. He's the owner of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. So stick around right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.
This is Brad, the editor of The Local Show with Tom and Steve. Join the fight against ALS. Visit tackleals.com today and support your team. Together, we will make a difference today, tomorrow, and for the future.